Welcome to Smash Fiction, the podcast where we pit two or more fictional characters against one another in a battle of strength, or wits, or apparently getting sweet gains at the gym despite also looking like a dead guy.
Yeah!
And see who would win. This week, Skeletor versus Mumm Ra.
This spooky season, Smash Fiction welcomes you to Smashtoberfest.
High atop Iron Mountain sits a mysterious shrine, and within waits an even more mysterious wizard named Merklin. He gazes into a lavender-hued crystalline orb, through it watching many a motley crew of beasts and men and beastmen. They are struggling to overcome the very many traps Merklin has laid in preparation for their coming, but it was he who invited them. Why, you may ask impatiently? Well, I don't really fucking know what this guy's actual motivation is, but here are the deets I got. This old-ass man is offering up magic in exchange for getting through his trap-filled mountain. And you know who's always looking for that next magical gimmick? Skeletor and Mumm Ra. Using their lackeys and allied mooks to get past the worst of the traps and obstacles, the two dead-headed villains eventually make their way to the gauntlet's end to find the scowling old wizard waiting to grant them their prize. However, before Merklin can scream foul play, Skeletor and Mumm Ra, working together, overtake and defeat the old wizard, having agreed during their trial to ally and take every magical artifact in the wizard's possession. As their dead eyes, or lack thereof, gaze on the magical artifacts before them, the two villains simultaneously make a decision. Sudden but inevitable betrayal! There can only be one all-powerful ruler, and if they're ever going to get their claws on Castle Grayskull and the Eye of Thundera, respectively, they can't share all of this magical power. And so it has come to this. When beefy, gray-skinned megalomaniacs collide, who will walk away from Merklin's shrine with vast, new power? I don't know. I never slammed their action figures together when I was a kid, so...
You're missing out.
I was about to say, yeah, no, dude, you can't.
So I, Kit Mulcairn, will be your impartial judge for this match. Advocating for Skeletor is Miles Schneiderman.
Dolts, half-wits, bunglers, brainless idiots, you couldn't even beat a motley group of gnomes! No. Today, I eliminate my rivals by making them my friends.
And Liz Logan?
What?
Oh, I'm already so happy about all the Skeletor impressions. Advocating for Mumm Ra is Colin Mulcairn.
Ancient spirits of talking fast, transform this pile of way too many notes into something that I could squeeze into my allotted argument time!
And Dan Mulcairn.
As long as bullshit exists, Dan Ra lives.
In order to determine which team goes first, I decided to run with the snake theme that both villains seem to have at least a little bit of, and created a snake-filled pit trap. Somehow, my high-pitched cackling didn't alert the teams of my devious plot, so into the trap they fell. Team Mumm Ra were such babies about it, screaming, "What's the point of this? Why are we in here? What happened?"
We did say that.
So I didn't actually create an objective for them to accomplish, but Team Skeletor stayed super chill because they knew none of the snakes were of the venomous sort and that none were large enough to strangle them. Good on you guys. Especially because Miles is on the team. I am impressed.
He probably thought they were bacteria or something.
I live with a snake now. I know the difference.
Oh, good. Okay, good. See, there you go. All right, so Team Skeletor, you go first.
Your Honor, we all know the narrative of this fight. You yourself affirmed it when you set up tonight's scenario. Villain versus villain. Now, I don't blame you for that, Your Honor. After all, you are not the one who has been orchestrating the smear campaign against Skeletor that has been going on nonstop for 30 years. Oh yes, Skeletor is the villain of the Masters of the Universe series. The villain! Just look at him. Evil laugh. Incompetent henchman. Skull for a face. Skull for a face. Your Honor, I urge you to remember that it is the year 2016, and we don't automatically judge people for the way they look anymore. We don't judge people by the color of their skin, or indeed, their lack of skin. The truth of the matter is that for 30 years, Skeletor, the bravest of all cross-dimensional demons, has been fighting a war for the freedom of Eternia. Fighting against a corrupt and entrenched monarchical power structure that recognizes the value of no Eternian who is not muscle-bound and white. We have King Randor, who adheres to a strict system of male succession, despite the fact that his heir is clearly a buffoon. We have the Queen, an outsider from a million light years away, who knows nothing of the hard-working people of Eternia. Man-at-Arms, a good friend of the King and Queen, holds a high position in the military, despite qualifications as dubious as his name.
He's a man, he has arms.
His adopted daughter Tila is captain of the guard. Convenient. And who is Tila's mother? Oh, yes. None other than the sorceress of Grayskull herself, whose constant intervention in the affairs of Randor's kingdom have often been the only thing keeping him in power. Very convenient. The only member of the court who does not conform to the physical standards set by these nepotistic racists is Orko, one of the most respected magicians of his people, relegated here on Eternia to a court jester and a fool. And of course, the entire disgusting enterprise is defended by the walking, talking embodiment of the very idea of patriarchy, a man who not only arrogantly claims to be the most powerful man in the universe, who not only wields power he did not earn to fight battles that are not his, who not only wraps tighter the shackles of Eternia with every lame-ass pun, but who, on a regular basis, forces an innocent, peace-loving jungle cat to assume the form of a warmongering servant of violence expressly against that jungle cat's will. These are the forces, Your Honor, that Skeletor, Randor's own brother, according to some continuities, who saw the face of injustice and as a result lost his own, has been fighting against. Feudalism, racism, sexism, cruelty to animals. These are Skeletor's ever-present opponents in a battle that can never be won, but nonetheless must always be fought. I ask you, what is some decrepit mummy who can barely move without the assistance of ancient magical patronage compared to that? Skeletor is not a villain, Your Honor. Skeletor fights villains. As a result, he has worlds of experience with the kind of person embodied by Mumm Ra. And not just because Mumm Ra is a subjugator of the innocent. Come on. You're asking Skeletor to go up against a pathetic dude who turns into a super strong dude when he engages in a stock footage transformation scene involving the invocation of external powers greater than his own? This fight is totally in Skeletor's wheelhouse. Except unlike He-Man, Mumm Ra routinely gets defeated by a bunch of animal-themed losers, defeated by the animal-themed losers, who feel secure enough in their prospects of victory to bring children to the fight, and who constantly beat him via the clever use of a fucking mirrored surface. Seriously, all Skeletor really has to do to win this is polish his face bones a little bit and send Mumm Ra straight back to the Black Pyramid. But let's assume the fight goes a little bit longer than that. I don't want to spend too much time on magic because this is a total Dresden Constantine situation in that regard. But Skeletor's magic is ridiculously powerful and versatile. There don't seem to be any real limits beyond his own creativity, and he can use the Havoc Staff to channel and augment his magic. He is also extremely tactical, known for fabricating disguises, devising distractions to weaken the defenses of his true targets, cloning himself, scrying on his opponents from afar, and even stealing dreams. And unlike Mumm Ra, Skeletor's power cannot be drained or taken away, and has no time limit. He also has a huge technological advantage, because Skeletor is a powerful wizard who is also a badass scientist. Do we know anyone else like that? Anyone? Anyone?
Oh,
Doom?
you're not so. Oh no, not for this judge.
Doom!
Fail. Oh well, 10 points from Slytherin, I guess.
But we're both Slytherin.
That both teams or what?
Oh, you're right. Oh, it's all snakes all the way down.
Snakes all the way down. He builds ships, weapons, potions that revive ancient monsters trapped in tar pits, etc. The last invention Mumm Ra remembers as being the new hip thing is the fucking water clock. And even if, in the end, this does come down to a straight-up fight, well, leaving aside Skeletor's demonstrable skill with the sword, I direct you to the names of the following action figures. Battle Armor Skeletor, Battle Blade Skeletor, Dragon Blaster Skeletor, Terror Claws Skeletor, Disc of Doom Skeletor, and Samurai Skeletor. Hashtag Danlist, Skeletor is love, I rest my case.
Thank you for not fucking up that intro, you overgrown fur coat.
I was gonna say, I rest my case, you boobs.
Between all my muscles, my fashionable leotard, and face with chiseled cheekbones that are, well, cheekbones, I am no doubt the top male model in Eternia.
Something just occurred to me. Did Skeletor do the announcements for our Thanksgiving Day match last year?
But besides my good looks, I'm always the smartest one in the room, extremely proficient in combat, and have a host of magical abilities and spells that would make some idiot named Dumbledore jealous. Nyah! 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 Frankly, most of the time when Skeletor does fail, it's because his Royal Highness, not related to Hannah Montana, is not there, and his minions are being stupid. But, when you're trying to conquer the entire universe, you have to sometimes delegate your tasks. But this is Skeletor versus Mumm Ra, mano y mano. Neither one can rely on henchmen. Luckily, Skeletor knows a few things about dealing with idiots, evil beings, or male model wannabes. Just think about Skeletor's conquests. He conquered friggin' Snake Mountain in Eternia, and now he has his sights set on conquering the entire universe. When it comes to dealing with Mumm Ra, Skeletor doesn't even have to fight him directly anyways. He has experience dealing with other villains and leaders through, talking. For example, when he partnered with Flog to get help in destroying He-Man, when he sees through the sorceress's sabotage, and when he was being absolutely savage to Hordak. No amount of Mumm Ra's deception or trickery would convince Skeletor to join him, because he's gonna try to rely on that because he's basically a fucking old man. Skeletor only partners with others when it's on his terms. Plus, he constantly realizes how stupid and untrustworthy his various minions are, so there would be no way he would ever trust Mumm Ra in his normal form, or if he disguised himself as one of Skeletor's own minions. In terms of physical prowess, Skeletor could also easily defeat Mumm Ra with a power sword, and is still nimble enough to bound and dodge out of the way if Mumm Ra tries to swipe at him or throw magic his way. Mumm Ra is your quintessential old man villain. Oh, you meddling kids, trying to stop my world domination. Let me kick you off my lawn real quick and then take a small nap in the reclining coffin over there.
Yeah, he's like, ancient spirits of evil, transform this decayed viscera or whatever into a being capable of making it to the toilet in time.
So, due to his advanced age, he cannot even maintain his powerful ever-living form, severely hampering his ability to go toe-to-toe with Skeletor, who is shown to be essentially just as powerful as He-Man, the most powerful individual in Eternia. Unfortunately, depending on which form he is in, Mumm Ra's melee and spellcasting trade off. While in ever-living form, he is physically very strong. While in Uber Bandage, the EMT went crazy with all the band-aids in the back mode, his spellcasting is really strong. Skeletor knows no such limitations. Mumm Ra's other weakness is that he is also quite self-conscious. Simply showing him a mirror or creating some elaborate scheme to show his reflection would cause him to go apeshit and instantly retreat back to his coffin. Even just fighting against him with a sword could allow Mumm Ra to see his reflection and cause him to freak out. I mean, Skeletor would easily hatch a plan, cause Mumm Ra to recall, and voila! There he is. Plus, you gotta consider the crystal ball of the Havoc staff. That could even show Mumm Ra his reflection. I mean, that's basically it. Then Skeletor has all the plunder to himself because Mumm Ra's gotta cry in his coffin. Then, if Skeletor followed him via teleportation, which he can do, and was also able to damage the coffin, Mumm Ra would also be severely weakened. Plus, if they had just stolen some of Merklin's goods, chances are Mumm Ra wouldn't even be able to take advantage of them. For example, Mumm Ra was literally too evil to use the Sword of Omens. Skeletor, on the other hand, has consistently demonstrated competency when dealing with magic items and powers from different areas of the universe. Honestly, some of Mumm Ra's failures have left him trapped for years. You know it's bad when your mommy and daddy, evil spirits, chastise you for being so fucking bad at your job. Skeletor can manipulate time, rip holes through dimensions, mind control others, shapeshift, manipulate objects, and has an animal best friend, the aptly named Panther. Better than some stupid undead dog. Mumm Ra has no subtlety. He either transforms into a huge demigod or doesn't. That's why so much emphasis is placed on this power. Skeletor does have that subtlety. He'll slip in and out of a situation with deception or use his strength when necessary. Skeletor has already fought the strongest man in his universe. How is a bundle of moth-eaten bandages going to stand a chance against him?
He isn't!
The gameable people are gonna fucking love that opening, y'all.
Yes.
Oh, amazing work. All right, Team Mumm Ra, you gonna take that shit?
Both of these guys have death motifs going on, but only one of them is truly undead. Mumm Ra is essentially a lich, and has spent thousands of years as a conduit for the black magic of an ancient pantheon. When it comes to Skeletor, though, his skull head is not indicative of a supernatural nature, he's just a guy who once rolled a natural 1 on an acid attack and ended up burning off his own face. Skeletor has learned some magic and has a cool-looking staff, but Mumm Ra's powers are on a completely different level. So the website Comic Vine keeps detailed pages on tons of different characters, including comprehensive lists of their powers. Skeletor's entry lists 28 different powers, although one of them is attractive male, which is a bit of a stretch. He's pretty much the definition of a butterface, if you ask me.
Dan, no, stop. Don't even lie. Stop lying.
No.
You know you're attracted to him.
I mean, look,
it's okay.
He puts a bag over his head and we'll talk.
Are you asking for pictures, Dan? Because it sounds like you're asking for pictures.
I would never open that Pandora's box, Liz.
You just did.
You realize you cannot look at any text Liz sends you now.
Nope,
for
I
the
don't
rest
plan
of your
to. I'm
life.
throwing my phone in the ocean. Anyway, as I was saying, Skeletor's entry has 28 different powers. Mumm Ra's Comic Vine page has 43 different powers. Mumm Ra possesses enough magical power to knock an advanced spaceship out of the sky and then cause that ship to be swallowed up by quicksand. He can teleport groups of people across huge distances, he can shapeshift, he can manipulate technology, and summon all sorts of crazy creatures like a flying jellyfish in the episode The Doomgaze, or a creature that's basically Mothra with fire breath in Mumm Ra. Mumm Ra is, of course, capable of assuming the form of the ever-living, which is where he basically looks like an undead version of Mortal Kombat's Shao Kahn. In this roided-out form, Mumm Ra's abilities are unparalleled. He's seen as being physically invulnerable. Any attempt to beat Mumm Ra straight on is doomed to failure, and he's able to hold off the combined force of all of the Thundercats at once by himself. In this form, in addition to superhuman levels of strength, he can project incredibly destructive energy blasts, fly, can cast intricate and powerful spells. He's like a 20th level fighter mage cleric made by the most abusive power gamer in history. Oh, and by the way, as of the beginning of the second season of Thundercats, he's no longer vulnerable to his own reflection, much to the chagrin of the cats and Skeletor. So not only does Mumm Ra command a wider variety of much stronger spells, but Skeletor is terrible when it comes to one-on-one combat. In the episode The Arena, he and He-Man are put into a straight fight. Skeletor starts off by shooting some energy bolts at He-Man. He-Man deflects them back at Skeletor, knocking away his Havoc staff, which we don't see for the rest of the fight. Skeletor then performs a series of increasingly ridiculous and ineffective magic attacks, including summoning a giant mound of bubblegum, which He-Man just throws away, and some exploding magic balls, which almost hit Skeletor instead of He-Man. Eventually, Skeletor causes a scorpion-type creature to grow to giant size, but ends up pissing off the creature so much that it attacks Skeletor, who moans that he has no way of defending himself because he's used up all of his magical energy on his useless and ineffective spells. Really? The dude didn't pack a single ether or MP potion? Is this his first time rolling a wizard or something? But more than that, the thing to take away from this is that during the whole fight, He-Man never attacked Skeletor once. In fact, the most active thing that He-Man does during the whole fight is to save Skeletor from the creature he himself created. He knew that he just had to let Skeletor tire himself out and he would eventually defeat himself. Probably the only opponent Skeletor is actually capable of defeating. So a typical He-Man episode revolves around Skeletor finding some new magic item, and using the powers that this item possesses, he's able to menace Eternia in a new and more effective way. We see this in episodes like The Diamond Ray of Disappearance, She-Demon of Phantos, The Curse of the Spellstone, The Time Corridor, The Dragon Invasion. Seriously, it's basically the go-to plot for every episode of He-Man. So this means that Skeletor, by himself, is simply not a threat for He-Man and his buddies. He needs to find something else to make up for his own shortcomings before he can even come to the fight. Now, what does a typical Thundercats episode look like? In Burbles, we see Mumm Ra cast a Meteor Storm spell on the Thundercats before he attacks them as a swarm of locusts. In episodes like Mumm Ra, The Garden of Delights, and All That Glitters, he uses disguise spells to influence and manipulate the Thundercats. In Spitting Image, he casts a clone spell on Panthro and has the clone spread chaos. What this means is that Mumm Ra knows a ton of spells and is always acting from his own abilities. He doesn't need to go looking for new magic items to be a threat. He is a threat, and an extremely versatile one from the get-go. Every episode, we see some new magical power or spell from Mumm Ra, and it's very likely that we haven't seen anything close to his full capabilities yet. But it's also clear that he won't need anything close to his full capabilities to defeat this pathetic excuse for a supervillain.
While watching a bunch of He-Man in preparation for this episode, I noticed that Skeletor has like the worst glass jaw I think I've ever seen. I ended up coming up with a theory about him which was never disproven, and each episode just made me more and more certain of this theory, which is that Skeletor has 1 hit point. Anytime anything hits Skeletor, he's just done. My favorite one of these moments occurs in Secret of the Sword when She-Ra knocks a cow skull off a mantelpiece and it lands on Skeletor's head like pretty softly. It doesn't look like it hits him that hard. And Skeletor just stands there for half a second with the cow skull on his head like Mr. Bean with the turkey on his head, and then he just falls over unconscious. In the episode The Shadow of Skeletor, there's this point where He-Man gently knocks him off of a platform that's like 5 feet off the ground and he lands in a puddle and then he just whines and gives up. At one point, he gets defeated by freaking Queen Marlena, Prince Adam's aging and presumably out of shape and non-supernatural mother. And there are also the many, many times that someone is able to reflect one of Skeletor's own energy beams back at him. Sometimes even accidentally they do this, and these beams, as well as literally any other attack ever, are always able to take out Skeletor in 1 hit. It's not just his body that's weak, though. It's also his willpower. In the episode The Secret of Castle Grayskull, Skeletor finally manages to get into Castle Grayskull for the first time, and it does not go well for him. The sorceress waves her hands in front of them and commands the magic of the castle to remove Skeletor and his minions from her sight, and Trapjaw says, "Skeletor, we must flee!" To which Skeletor replies, "Nonsense! My magic will fix the sorceress!" And then a tiny carving of a demon face on the wall comes to life, and its eyes glow red, and it makes an adorable little roar at them, and Skeletor says, "On the other hand, fleeing sounds like a terrific idea." And then they try to run away, but a bunch of other stuff in the castle starts coming to life and attacking them. And for a couple minutes, they run around the castle like Shaggy and Scooby, running away from the ghosts before the magic of the sorceress finally flings them out of the castle. And Skeletor ends up stuck in a tree, and he looks down at his minions on the ground and says, "What idiot started this anyway?" And they reply in unison, "You did." This probably goes without saying, but that shit that the sorceress was throwing at them was so tame. Mumm Ra's farts are scarier than that. In the He-Man and She-Ra Christmas special, yeah, we're going there. Skeletor has captured a pair of kids and their adorable robot dog, and he's making them march across a frozen wasteland, and the kids start complaining about the cold, and Skeletor at first tells them that it's too bad, they'll just have to suffer, but then seconds later, he feels bad, and so he summons them some winter coats, and later, he commands that the robot dog has to be left behind, but when he starts to walk away and he sees it sitting there in the snow, he just can't go through with it. He has a change of heart and he picks up the dog and carries it with him. So this Christmas special...
It's so sweet, though. It's so sweet.
It's very
because he's the hero.
Sure.
He's the hero, Colin.
This Christmas special teaches us 2 valuable lessons. The first is that the 1980s were a super weird time when literally everyone was on cocaine. And the second is that Skeletor is the worst villain ever. So both of these shows have a similar adventurous / comedic tone with scary, cartoony peril blending into moments of lightheartedness. The thing about Thundercats, though, is Mumm Ra is pretty much never the butt of the joke. He is always scary. But so much of the humor in Masters of the Universe comes from how petty, childish, and incompetent Skeletor is. In terms of appearance, I can understand why someone might think that these 2 characters are similar, but in terms of intelligence, competence, and maturity, I think a better analog for Skeletor in the Thundercats universe would be Snarf?
Wow. All right. It's getting heated in here. It's getting a little sexy, dare I say. Team Skeletor, have at him.
Wait, is it time for rebuttals, kid?
Duh.
Damn it,
How
kid!
many episodes have you been on, Miles? You know it's time for rebuttals.
Rebut Skeletor
Did you say
buttholes.
that?
It's okay.
Please?
It's time for
Could you
rebooties.
please say that?
It's time for rebooties.
Yup.
Team Skeletor, rebut them.
You talk about how incompetent Skeletor is, but frankly, his track record doesn't completely show that, whereas Mumm Ra's does straight from the beginning. Skeletor came over here from his world, was able to take over as the ruler of Snake Mountain. He's constantly forging alliances, using people for his own gains. These things are working. There's no doubt he would totally have a chance against Mumm Ra and eventually kill him. Whereas the first thing frickin' Mumm Ra does, given all these powers, he's so frickin' incompetent, he begs for more power from his handlers because of how dumb he is. That establishes a precedent, and then he constantly fails in everything he does. Skeletor,
And then he fails.
Skeletor at least does actually complete a lot of the tasks he sets his mind to. Yes,
okay,
there might be a few jokes, but he still does.
Okay, Liz, so you talk about how Skeletor conquered Snake Mountain. What actually happened is Skeletor found Snake Mountain abandoned, and so he and his minions basically just started squatting in it. And then eventually, the people who actually run Snake Mountain came back. They were the Snake Men, led by this dude, King Hiss. And basically, King Hiss challenges Skeletor to a fight and kicks his ass, and then has his giant snake pet eat Skeletor. And Skeletor spends the next 3-episode arc inside this snake as He-Man and his friends fight the Snake Man and finally beat them. And then Skeletor just crawls out and he's like, well, I'm still cooler looking.
And it was all part of his plan. What do you not
That's the thing.
That is the
That's
thing.
the thing.
He goes in circles.
What's the
This
thing?
is meant to be.
Yeah. Every time you mention Skeletor, like, going down really easy or being a coward, it all eventually comes back to it being some kind of way for him to get the upper hand. Going off what Liz mentioned, Skeletor is actually a kind of a master manipulator and really understands the people around him. All your examples have been from specifically Season 2 Masters of the Universe. I've noticed that a lot of what you guys are bringing up are from Season 2 Masters of the Universe, and that's fine. But in Season 1, he's an extremely menacing villain, and in everything after that, Skeletor as a character grows and learns to deal with defeat better and becomes a more menacing villain. And as we get further into the later series, whether it be the one in the early 2000s or the one in the late 2000s, he becomes more and more of a competent threat. So you can say that Mumm Ra has overcome his weakness to seeing his own reflection, but everything he overcomes is a direct result of the ancient spirits of evil being like, man, you fucked that up, huh? You really fucked that up. God, we have to give you more fucking... Fine, okay, fine. Here, you don't have to flee at the sight of your own reflection anymore. Fine.
You're embarrassing us.
Skeletor's growth as a character comes as a result of himself. It's all him.
What you're basically just talking about is the difference between a cleric and a wizard. Skeletor's more of a wizard, Mumm Ra's more of a cleric. Mumm Ra can get more powers from the ancient spirits of evil. Skeletor doesn't have an option for anything like that. And it doesn't really matter where he gets his powers from. The fact of the matter is he has a ton of powers because he can draw them from this well. And he can make deals with these demons and get more power, which is something that Skeletor can't do.
Well, Skeletor's powers are essentially limitless. I mean, you talk about all the powers listed on the Comic Vine website, Dan, and everything, that's all well and good. But the fact of the matter is, the only way to catalog Skeletor's powers is to go through episode by episode and see what he does, because nothing is ever explained. He can do whatever he wants.
There are so many episodes where he just gives up when him and He-Man are in a room and he's like, well, nothing I can do.
That's He-Man. He-Man threw a tornado into space. I watched him do it. He took a tornado, he wound it up like a piece of string, and he threw it into space. You can't judge He-Man because He-Man would beat the fuck out of Mumm Ra.
If Skeletor's powers were as limitless and potent as you claim that they are, he wouldn't have run out of juice at the end of that fight I mentioned in the arena, where he, again, summons bubblegum and these balls that make very small explosions when they hit things and almost end up hitting him. And then when he actually gets menaced by a creature he himself created, he doesn't have any magic left to fight it. It's far from limitless.
And if Mumm Ra didn't have limitless or whatever, he wouldn't have to retreat to his fucking sarcophagus all the time. So, there.
I have a very clear picture of how this fight would go. First of all, Dan saying he's just a human is ridiculous. He's a fucking demon. Anyway, you talk about Skeletor being cowardly, you talk about him having access to limited powers. The way I see this fight going is Mumm Ra does his ancient spirits of evil thing and fucking hulks up, and Skeletor's like, bye, and disappears, which he does in like every fucking episode. And Mumm Ra's like, oh, okay. I guess I'll take this stuff here.
Oh
and,
shit, my timer
go
ran
back home.
out. Oh no.
Yeah. And Skeletor waits him out, scries on him, maybe looks into his mind, looks into his past, his history, sees into his dreams. He can do all these things, and maybe he sees that Mumm Ra needs these ancient spirits of evil and understands where they are. Maybe he goes to see them and talks to them, has a conversation about how much Mumm Ra sucks, or he doesn't need to do that. He could just destroy all of them and fuck up the sarcophagus, and then Mumm Ra's totally fucked. Maybe he does it with one of his badass inventions that he has. The point is that Skeletor, when faced with this kind of scenario, is going to retreat and come up with an actual plan, whereas Mumm Ra, when he's on the offensive against the Thundercats, he comes up with disguises and stuff, but in terms of a tactician, he's not much of one.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that sounds like we win the scenario, because I believe this is a fight in this room and whoever wins gets the stuff. You can't, wait us out a few years. I don't think that that's how this scenario works.
I'm still pretty sure a fight in this room means Skeletor gets the stuff, because, again, he's a badass warrior. I don't know what you're talking about, this one hit point thing. Again, that's the old series. But even if it's not, I think that Skeletor, while Mumm Ra's making his way back to wherever he comes from, I think Skeletor can scry on him, ambush him, find his weakness, and take all his shit, which means we run the scenario.
You can't cherry pick the moments where he's competent and ignore the parts where he's a huge derp.
Well, you can't cherry pick the moments where he's a huge derp and ignore the parts where he's competent.
Team Mumm Ra, it's time to kick their rebuts.
Mumm Ra's spellcasting is not weaker when he's in his ever-living form. That was something that Liz said. The time when he summons the big fire-breathing moth demon in the Mumm Ra episode, it's when he's in his ever-living form.
You guys have brought up the fact that Mumm Ra has kind of a limited stamina bar, if you will, and that when it runs out, he has to return to his pyramid. And that's
he's going to fall right off that Colossus, man.
Sure. That's
fall right off it.
That's largely true.
He's eating so many fruits and lizards.
The thing is, we see in the episode The Doomgaze that Mumm Ra is able to make use of areas of power. He goes to this kind of like Stonehenge area, and he's able to draw on the power there as though he was drawing from the ancient spirits of evil. And we are in a wizard's tower, and Merklin's tower in particular has an energy well that recharges magic items. So Mumm Ra has to dip a toe in this, and he's back up to full. Again, as we've been talking about, Skeletor goes down real easily. Like, even if Mumm Ra only has 5 minutes to fight, that's 50 rounds in D&D, and that's a lot of attack rolls he can get in, and as soon as he lands one of them, Skeletor's out.
You talk about Skeletor being able to dodge. Whenever I saw it in the original series, he's just standing, still as a board, flat-footed all the time, and, that bit I mentioned with the cow skull, he shoots an energy blast at She-Ra, she holds up her sword, and it flies off, and he says, "You missed!" And she says, wait for it, and then you see it, bounce off a wall, bounce off another wall, hits the cow skull, he, looks up at the cow skull shaking, cow skull falls, lands on his head, he does not dodge. Whereas, when Lion-O and Mumm Ra fight, Lion-O will frequently swing a sword at Mumm Ra, and Mumm Ra will leap in the air and land behind Lion-O, something that Skeletor has never seen do.
The reason none of this matters is because Skeletor is up against the Masters of the Universe, which Mumm Ra is, distinctly inferior to.
Oh, yes.
Get his ass kicked by, T-Rex.
The Masters of the Universe. Yeah. People like Manny Faces and Ram Man.
Orko would beat the fuck out of Mumm Ra,
and
dude. Stratos would beat the fuck out of Mumm Ra.
To counter one of Dan's points, he was talking about the scenario and dipping mummy toes into wizard water. As I said before, Mumm Ra was literally too evil to use the Sword of Omens, a magic item. What's to say that he could, use Merklin's power? Because Merklin isn't strictly an evil person, right? He just kind of distributes things that might play jokes, right?
He's neutral, yeah. He powers the Darkling Lords and the Spectral Lords.
So it is not out of the realm of possibility that Mumm Ra tries to do that and is repulsed by the environment and whatever items that are around.
They might not take particularly kindly to him running around drawing power from this tower.
I actually have a point I'd like to make about that, because Miles, you were talking about the difference in Skeletor's sort of representation over time, and both of these characters have actually had DC Comics published, which kind of serve as
sequels
I
to
knew
their
it.
series.
Fuck you! You opened up the continuity beyond the original series,
Yeah, man, this is on you. I was gonna stick to the original series, but no. So, in the Thundercats series, Mumm Ra serves as the main villain. He has killed the 4 ancient spirits of evil and taken their power for himself, and he's used that power to enslave the Thundercats. In the He-Man series, Skeletor is in it, but in one series, Hordak is the main villain, and in another series, the main villain is freaking Orko. How is this even a match at this point?
The reason that Mumm Ra was able to do what he did in that comic book series is for one reason and one reason only, and that was because Lion-O was a fucking moron. That is the only reason he was able to do what he did. Now, Skeletor, as I've said, he might not be portrayed always as the main villain. That doesn't matter. That's completely immaterial. The reason he's not the villain of the DC Comics series is not because he's incompetent or a bad villain. The reason that he's not the villain is because he is a more malleable and deeper character than Mumm Ra.
Oh, shit!
Yeah, no, I'm totally serious.
Come on,
Just because Skeletor isn't conventional, it doesn't mean that he's not strong.
Well, I learned a lot today. Nothing important, but my God.
Okay, Kit just took off her glasses when she said that. I just want to make that clear.
That storm on the horizon, it's massive. That can only mean one thing.
Skeletor's dick!
I mean, we should probably stop recording this podcast for now. It's not safe to use electronic equipment during a storm, I'm just gonna say.
Wait. Is this the lightning round?
Oh, it's the
is it?
lightning round.
It's the
Yes,
lightning
it is.
round, guys. It's fine.
It's the lightning round. Yeah.
I can totally see Skeletor's stupid face when you guys see this voice. It's so great.
I have devised this lightning gauntlet.
You mock
my
lightning round.
It's not as good. I'm sorry.
I know.
I'm sorry.
I know it's
Skeletor
not.
are just so stupid.
I liked it.
Oh, thanks, Liz.
As Skeletor and Mumm Ra struggle to get the upper hand on their opponent, the camera pans over to reveal Merklin, slowly and carefully pushing himself to his knees. This is a fucking 80s cartoon, so it's not like Merklin died. The old wizard glares daggers at the villains, and would see them banished from his universe forever. Holding up his glowing crystal ball, Merklin yells, "Allow me to present to you what you have earned for your insolence." Rays of multicolored light arc out of the orb and engulf both villainous men, and in moments, the two completely fade out of this world's existence. Separately, both Mumm Ra and Skeletor reappear in a similarly two-dimensional world. However, every word they speak comes out in Japanese, but is also being translated into English by small floating text that hovers at varying distances. The grammar of this text isn't exactly on point, though. Clearly a fan sub. That's right. That's right. Skeletor and Mumm Ra have been banished into the anime dimension.
Oh, God.
Ooh, can we come up with what we look like? Ooh.
I concede.
Teams, you must answer the following. What type of genre is your anime? Since your characters are now
It
protagonists.
has genres?
Since your characters are now protagonists, whether they like it or not, who is the antagonist? What is the plot? You better make it something that can get a shit ton of filler episodes shoved into it, because some of the most successful anime in the West have run for well over 700 episodes. Fucking One Piece. You're not that great. And finally, you can't forget the merch. Anime has some of the weirdest merch to come out of their most popular shows, such as Sailor Moon tampons. Thank you to the Sailor Business Podcast for teaching me about that little nugget. So,
Get hit by a car on my way home? Am I in hell?
what is the weirdest piece of merchandise to come out of your anime? Team Mumm Ra, sell me the next big mummy anime.
It's very clear to me that the series that Mumm Ra is going to be in, because of his love of transformation sequences and all of his adorable animal companions, it is going to be Magical Girl Mumm Ra-chan.
Colin, you and I are on the exact same page.
Yes!
Naturally.
Yes. In this, Mumm Ra-chan is a middle school aged undead girl with the ability to, transform with a bunch of sparkles and rainbows into a much beefier form. She fights a bunch of these really bishy cat people that are, of course, the main villains, because, all anime villains are bishy people.
Yeah.
And
What does that mean?
They're handsome males.
Aw. I enjoy watching Miles just squirm and not know what that meant. But and of course she has a little talking frog and a little talking dog and a little talking bird and a little talking monkey that are all of her companions. Anything else, Dan?
Well, yeah, I think this is totally a magical girl thing. The thing to keep in mind is that this clique that she's up against is kind of like this super insular group, because they're all cat people and they won't let anyone who isn't a cat person in. But Mumm Ra-chan is all about diversity. She doesn't care if you're a reptile or an ape or a jackal or a vulture. She's all about inclusiveness.
They call them mutants, but
exactly.
she calls that hate speech.
Yeah, exactly. She's basically fighting to keep Earth, the third Earth school district.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Oh, I hurt my brain coming up with that one. She fights to keep the third Earth school district safe from the forces of racial purity groups.
Wow.
And of course, some of the merch that comes out of this is Mumm Ra-chan toilet paper, which children in Japan will wrap themselves up with and pretend to be Mumm Ra-chan.
I think Third Earth is Sanban Sekai.
Okay.
Tweet me if I'm wrong, y'all.
What does that mean?
Third Earth?
Third Earth!
Yeah, Sanban Sekai.
I think your mind just deliberately shuts out Japanese things from entering it.
All right. Skeletor, you ready?
I'm so ready. Okay.
I think our genre is going to be porn.
Okay. I'll go. Let me go, and you can.
That was all I had.
I mean, the merch can be porn.
Oh no.
So our genre, it's a mix. I would say action, musical.
And porn.
So Skeletor is a young adult chain-smoking male ballerina. Bear with me here, okay? I didn't have time to look up whatever the male version of ballerina is, but that, okay?
Ballerino.
Sure. Ballet man. So
That sounds like a He-Man character.
He's had a rough childhood. For some reason, he can never take off his purple leotard, and he's just kind of had to deal with it. So he just thought, oh, ballerina, that's the natural career option for So he starts dancing, and he's dancing pretty well, and he's not that great. People pick on him and stuff. But one night he's dancing, and the spotlight falls right on him, and it's magical. And he starts dancing, and he's dancing, and all of a sudden, everyone else is frozen on stage. And the audience is frozen on stage. Everyone in the concert hall is frozen. Skeletor discovers that every time he dances, if he really commits to the bit, he can freeze time. Skeletor, being evil, starts to use this freeze time shit to steal things from the audience and stuff. Then he gets even crazier. He starts sending out invitations to people that work at banks and stuff. And then everyone just forgets it because they're like, oh my God, I gotta go see Skeletor. And so he starts robbing banks. Eventually he dances so much that the Earth's rotation stops. He freezes all of Earth. All of a sudden, some crazy ass time police, like frickin' Bleach, these people from a different dimension come and they need to stop Skeletor. So imagine humongous set pieces of dancing. You got ballerinas over here, you got tap dancers over here, you got jazz dancers, and it's a freaking dance-off to try and get the Earth to spin again to save everyone, because if the Earth doesn't start spinning again, everything's gonna freeze over. Skeletor has to come to his senses and realize he can't be evil and be selfish and take everything. And obviously the merchandise would be a tutu.
Sounds Japanese to me. Porn jokes aside, definitely the villain has to be a He-Man analog, right?
A He-Man analog?
Yes, that. I don't really know what genre it is or what happens in it, although I suspect that at some point, like, I don't know, either He-Man's, like, power sword or maybe Skeletor's Havoc Staff gets shattered into literally 10 million pieces, and every episode has to be the recovery of a piece so we can keep the series going on fucking forever.
Yes. You make the money.
Yeah, I'm guessing that would work out. Skeletor, probably, he's the protagonist in this, and the Master of the Universe, the antagonist. I'm guessing he nurses some kind of crush on, like, Tila and the Sorceress so that, it provides some reason for animators to make blood bubbles come out of his nose, because that makes sense. I'm trying to think of other things I hate about anime. His eyes are really huge, which is weird because he doesn't have any. And yeah,
I was gonna say, does he get sparkles in the hollows in his face? One more thing I want to throw in, much like Mumm Ra does in the season 3 finale, Mumm Ra-chan has the ability to grow to the size of a kaiju.
Yes.
Oh, wait, fuck that shit, dude, because I'm gonna fight your kaiju with my giant robot that Skeletor will invent, because he's an inventor.
Who dances.
So he's
right.
He's a time-controlling, robot-inventing, bank-robbing ballerino.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And, like, so he and Beastman and Merman and Evelyn and Trapjaw all, like, come together.
So
they have individual robots, yeah, and they, like, come together to form one really fucking big robot.
Can Merman form the leg, but, like, his is just a giant fish? So there's this giant Voltron with just a fish for a leg?
No, we'll actually bring in, like, one of the other ones. Like, we'll bring in Triclops or some shit, too. So Triclops can come in, and then Merman can just be the gills. Like, he's so lame, he doesn't even get his own body.
And I want to call it Skelerama.
Skelerama. Yeah, I love that.
Skelerama.
And everybody always makes fun of Merman because he has no purpose, because the suit, doesn't need gills.
Everyone else forms a giant robot, and he turns into a fish, which just lies there on the street.
That's right. And every time the giant robot, like, there's this big transformation sequence of the giant robot, and then it gets hit, and it just, like, falls apart.
This definitely sounds like one of those anime that's a parody of anime.
Yes.
Essentially.
I mean, with me writing it, it would be.
Yes. Those are the best.
Oh, and he has a giant pair of scissors. Did I mention that?
Go on.
I think it's time for me to retire to my chambers, and, like, I'm gonna totally think it over and not watch hentai or anything. Bye, guys!
So can I just say that I really do apologize if we were talking too much or talking over to you guys, but we fucking needed to because you had the better position.
Yeah.
Oh my god, Mumm Ra is so much more
What the
confident.
fuck?
Like fucking Skeletor.
Who decided this match?
I only picked Skeletor because I like his voice. Like, whatever.
I mean, it was fun to argue him, but if we win, I'm gonna be pretty fucking proud
Well,
of myself.
you guys came really hard. I mean, there were just so many points. I couldn't address them all. Like,
Well, I feel like I'm the real loser here because I had to watch that damn Christmas special, and that was unbearable.
I enjoyed it.
Whatever, dude. I had to watch Thundercats.
Oh man, don't even get me started. I watched He-Man first, and then I went over to Thundercats, and I saw the animation quality just like leap up to just a whole new level. It was just about half of He-Man is people running either in profile or at a 3/4 view and like with the same footage over and over again.
It's so good.
It's just the same footage over and over again.
Yes, the animation quality is terrible. The script is often terrible, and you have to sit through a sanctimonious moral at the end. I grant
I'm waiting for the but.
but Thundercats is bad, man. Like, I don't see the appeal. It's boring.
At least the action is good.
No,
it's like all
boring,
acrobatic
man.
and like exciting. And
I don't know, man. I could never get into Thundercats as a kid, and I couldn't get into it now. It's like
I agree.
It was really just like, at least when I'm going back and watching Master of the Universe,
It's
I'm like
so funny.
laughing at it.
Masters of the Universe is more good bad. I will give that to you.
Yeah, Thundercats, I just couldn't. I really didn't. I don't know. The most interesting Thundercats has ever been for me is that stupid Wildstorm comic. And that's just fucking wrong. Like, that shit shouldn't exist.
Yeah, it's so good, though.
Were you the one who made me read that?
I didn't make you read it. I said that I had it, and I asked if you wanted to borrow it. You know, like friends do.
Yeah, right. Friends don't let friends read the Thundercats DC comic, Dan.
So I have a lifelong not-so-quasi obsession with swords, and rewatching these two series, I think that's why. Because, like, the Power Sword and the Sword of Omens are just, they're so good. I think I'd rather have the Sword of Omens.
Because it's like my aesthetic ideal of what a sword should be.
I mean, the way that, like, curves in like that, I'm not sure about that. The Power Sword is iconic just because, like, they made it iconic because every fucking scene transition is the sword spinning into place.
Yeah.
Don't you want to buy this piece of merch, children?
I was rewatching the Thundercats pilot, and I saw the bit where their ship is getting boarded by the ship from Plundar, and I realized I was watching, I was like, this is, I think, the first time I saw a ship getting boarded when I was a kid. And every time in my mind, there's a ship that attaches and, like, people are coming in. It's not Star Wars that I think of with, like, the blockade runner. It's Thundercats and that one scene. And then I saw, like, the magic thing and I heard the magic sound effect. And I'm like, that's how magic sounds to me. I saw, like, the glowing portals in He-Man. And I'm like, that's what portals look like.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
like, it was just, like, the earliest versions of all of these different sort of fantasy and sci-fi concepts. I think most of them came from He-Man and Thundercats for me.
He-Man and Transformers, I think, was for me, because you talked about the ship getting boarded scene.
Yeah.
For me, that's Transformers the movie. I think, actually, no, it's the first episode of Transformers, I think. It's one of the two, I can't remember, but there's a ship getting boarded scene. But yeah, definitely portals opening.
Yes.
What swords look like, for sure. Yeah. What lasers sound like.
What lasers sound like, man. That was just like, I'm like, that's the laser sound when you hear the lasers. It's just like, yeah.
Liz, I'm curious, because you're a couple of years younger than most of us. How much exposure did you have to He-Man and Thundercats when you were a kid?
A little bit, not a whole lot. I liked Masters of the Universe, like He-Man and that. I like that better, just because, oh my god, Skeletor, he's so fucking funny.
Yeah, he's the best.
But I didn't watch it a whole lot. It was mostly, you know, like gargoyles and turtles and stuff. I feel like a
Frank
downer.
Langella,
I feel left out.
Frank Langella.
Oh, right. And Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah, I watched the hell out of that movie.
Oh, man.
Apparently, that was one of Frank Langella's favorite roles ever.
Yeah, that's what I read.
He loved playing Skeletor.
Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, I would love playing Skeletor.
Right?
Like, I can't imagine a more fun character to play.
Hey, kids.
Hey.
Hi.
We've had a lot of fun here today on Smash Fiction. And sometimes you and your friends may find yourself arguing about dumb shit, too. When this happens, you may feel tempted to try to think up logical points and facts to persuade the other side that you're right. But remember, it doesn't matter how factual your argument is if no one can hear you. So, when you get into debates with your friends, remember, less thinking, more yelling.
Oh, beautiful. I have a path for my life.
All right, guys. You made this so hard for me because both of your opening arguments were so strong and convincing that I needed the rebuttals to work it out.
Wow.
I just didn't know what to believe. And yeah, during the rebuttals, it was really close and back and forthy and heated the way I like it. But I think one side did a slightly better job of convincing me of their character's competence over the other. So
kind of bums me out to say it, but I think I'm going to have to give this one to Mumm Ra.
Yes!
Yeah.
Just like Spider-Gwen's derpiness did her in, so it does Skeletor's superior derpiness.
It's all good. I got to make my larger point, the more important point about Skeletor being the true hero of Masters of the Universe.
We can all agree on that.
Yeah,
if nothing
you
else.
really stuck it to power in Eternia.
Meow.
What? I'll get you next time, Mumm Ra.
Oh my god, Becky, we have so many thanks to give. Thank you, everyone who's been retweeting our links. Zane C. Weber, Roz Scott, who's always amazing, always retweeting. Tuning Japanese, Samaconda, Cosplay Fiend, Rafael Medina, Mike Booch, and Florian.
Mike Booch is the one who found the Doom restaurant,
Yes.
DHOOM.
I saw that.
That's right, yeah.
Needs a few more O's in it, though, if you ask me.
I agree, but I'm still gonna eat there.
Also, Agent KO has been live tweeting as they've been listening to our episodes, and
Oh, that's so cool.
Seriously?
I'll have to check those out.
yes,
They're
and
really great.
I just have one question. What is a tweet?
yeah, Colin's still an egg. Everyone just spam Colin.
It's too much pressure now. My first tweet would have to be so good because of all the build-up, right?
At Colin
I mean-
Mulcairn, direct all of your spam bots there.
So on Facebook, thank you to Sean Patrick Craig for mentioning us in an awesome Facebook page called The Extraordinary Journey of a Black Nerd Group.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, thanks for looking out for us. Also, Anton Belain, sharing the cyborg battle. Thank you, Anton. On Tumblr, one of my favorite fans, By Forge and Fire, has been reblogging a bunch of stuff and also said some very sweet things. They say, I'll be honest, I had my doubts about, wait, no, I didn't. If there are any 5 people in the universe who can pull off a 20-character battle royale, I wouldn't have picked anyone but the 5 hosts of Smash Fiction. They've proven for over a year that they're unsurpassed in arguing about fictional characters going head-to-head. In this episode, they become vast and unknowable entities, finally interacting with their characters. I can't say enough good things about this one, but let me endorse it thus. I'm going to listen at least a few more times. Keep on fighting the good fight, Smash Fiction, or the evil one. Just keep fighting. Yeah, thank you.
Nice.
Yeah, that's
Thank
awesome.
you.
No tweet. And then we got a awesome Gmail. Or I guess just email that was on Gmail. So this one is from Tyler Fullman, it looks like. They said, basically, I love the podcast so much. It's always great to start off the week laughing, and the Smash Bash is one of the best episodes yet. So congrats on the 50 great battles, and here's to 50,000 more. Oh my god, how long would that take?
Well, we did 50 in a year, so probably about 10,000 years.
Well, I plan on living that long, so I could...
That would be 1,000 years.
1,000 years, yes.
My favorite episodes are the 4-person challenges, as they give a great variety of characters to choose from. So may I suggest a fiery fatal 4-way to go with the ice battle? I think we can make that happen at some point. So yes.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. I think a lot of people do like those 4-ways. We just can't do them too often because then we burn through characters. Heh. Burn.
Fire puns are beginning already.
Oh, I got you.
We've got all our season 1 characters back.
Yeah.
So I think we'll be okay. By the way, everyone, welcome to season 2.
Yes, yes, indeed. And we have our first iTunes review of season 2 as well. From, I think, the same guy who wrote us that email, because his username on iTunes is Bugmaniac Tyler.
There you go.
You like bugs? Like the aminals?
Yeah, Kid can talk to you about bugs all day, every day. So his review is titled Insanely Funny. Smash Fiction is always entertaining, from the serious battles like Batman vs. Dr. Doom to the not-so-serious but hilarious, like putting Hannah Montana in the Hunger Games.
Yeah!
Yeah, you have one person to thank for that particular contribution. Everyone on this show is great and has something different to bring to the character they represent that week. It's the podcast you didn't know that you needed, but you'll be so glad you have it in your life now. So thank you very much. That's very, very nice.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you to our fans, Abraham Williams and Little Kipapeo. I hope I said that right. It is very adorable, regardless, for suggesting this match.
Yeah, both suggested the same match independently, so we took that as, hey, our fans might like this one.
Just to let you guys know, if any of you fans out there were planning on going to Kamikaze or even just thinking about it a little bit, Liz and I are actually planning on going on the Saturday.
October 28th.
Yes.
And that's in Los Angeles.
The LA Convention Center.
Yeah. It's supposed to be more low-key than, San Diego. So if you're a little bit overwhelmed by the usual con fare, then this might be a bit better. This is my first time going, so I'm hyped, and I'm going to be cosplaying as America Chavez. So look out for one of her.
You guys aren't going to have, a booth or a show or anything.
No,
You're just wandering around. But if you see someone who looks like America Chavez, but with much, much longer hair...
Well, no, I'm going to be hiding my super long braid, because
okay.
that's not America Chavez.
Well, never mind that. Say hi to anyone who looks like America Chavez.
And if you see a giant with Multiple cameras, that'll be me.
We'll be hanging out together.
Maybe they can tweet at us or something?
Yeah. If you want to give us a heads up, that'd be cool too. I will try to sort of live tweet experiences so maybe you can figure out where we are a bit better.
All right, great.
Just wanted to give you guys a heads up. I know some people want to say hi. Thank you to everyone for listening to another great episode of Smash Fiction. Next week,
The cast of Seinfeld.
versus John Carpenter's The Thing.
Are they gonna die? Maybe.
Probably.
Smash Fiction is produced by Miles Schneiderman, with logo designed by Colin Mulcairn.
Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod for our theme song, which is called Hitman. You can find his work at www.incompetech.com.
You can follow the Smash Fiction podcast on Twitter at SmashFicPodcast and search for us on Facebook and Tumblr.
Subscribe on iTunes, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight.
Wait, Kit.
Jaga has appeared before you, and he has something to tell you.
She left already.
Get her, Dan.
Okay. Kit. Colin apparently has the funniest joke ever that he really needs to tell.
I was mid-fap. What do you want?
Jaga has appeared, and he has something to tell you. I have a Jaga quote for you.
Okay.
Be not hasty in your decisions, wily Kit. Your instincts may be correct, but one does not make decisions by instinct alone. Let the facts weigh heavily on your mind, and listen to your peers with caution.
You got me, Colin. That was the funniest joke ever.
You know what, Dan?
No. Funniest joke ever.
Advocating for Mumm Ra is Colin Mulcairn.
Hold on, please.
Sorry.
Sorry. I tried to breathe whiskey. It didn't work.
You need to get some of those gills that just will filter out the whiskey so you can...
Ronan! I summon you!
Wait, Miles! Let's get the last laugh.
Yeah.